Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss what is type conversion and how to do type conversion in Python programming language. What is type conversion? It is the process of converting data of one type into another type. Basically, Python is a dynamically typed language. That means the data type of the variables you are going to use to store the values are not determined in prior, are not fixed in prior. In other programming languages like C, C++ or Java, if you are going to declare a variable, first thing expected from you is to declare it with its data type. Either it's integer or float or char or string, whatever. Right? So you want to declare that variable's data type when you are declaring it. But Python is giving a freedom to you that you no need to specify any data type for any variable. Instead, the data type of a variable is fixed as the data type of the value that is going to be stored into that variable. So if you are storing an integer value into that variable, then its type is integer. If you are storing the value of a float value into a variable, then it's of type float. Let us have a small example on this. For example, let me have a variable a and its data type is not no need to be defined or mentioned in the statement. Directly I am storing a value or I am assigning a value 10 to this variable a. Now let me print the type of the variable, print type of variable a. Now if I print the type of this variable, what it will print is it will say that its type is integer. Okay, its type is integer. I didn't mention that it's an integer variable. In other programming languages, I want to mention that it's integer or float or char, whatever. But here, I have not mentioned what type of data or what type of variable it is. But by assessing the value or the type of value I stored in this variable, the data type of the variable is getting converted. Suppose if I store a string into the same variable a, for example x, y, z, then what will happen is the data type of this a will be changed to a string from integer. So print type of a, right? So if we print the type of this variable a, now you can see that the data type of the variable is a string, not an integer. So when it has a value 10, then its data type was integer, and when its value changed to a string, its data type is string. So in Python, any variable can accommodate any type of data, and the type of that variable will be changing depending upon the type of value that is going to be stored into that variable. Now, beyond this logic, sometimes we want to convert the data of one type into another type. Let us have a small example. I am getting a number as input from the user. So num is equal to input of enter a number. So I am asking the user to enter a number as input. And after getting that number as input from the user, I want to multiply it by 2 just to double it. So I am multiplying that variable's value by 2 and store the result back into num again, so that num is having the doubled value of the original value. That means it's multiplied by 2 and the result is stored back into num. Now before I am printing the result, first let me print the value, or let me print the type of this num. So print type of num. After that, let me print the type of, or print the value of this num. So print num. Let us run the code again. So if you check the output, it's asking for the number, so 10, and you see the data type of the actual number ended is actually string. That means the input entered by the user is not accepted as an integer. Instead, it is accepted as a string. So, and one more thing is, I expected that the statement num equal to num into 2 will multiply the value of num by 2 and it will give the numerical result 20. But what it shown is 1010. So what happened? What is the problem? Absolutely no problem, because here the input function is designed to accept only strings as input. So you can enter any type of data, any value, right? Either it is 1, 0, A, B, C, right? But finally it will be accepted as a string only. So if you want to use, or if you want to have a number as input to the user, you have to get the value of the number as a string, and then you have to convert it into integer or float or whatever type, right? So here I want to convert this string entered by the user, either 10 or 100 or 200, right? Whatever number entered by the user, it's a string, and I want to convert it into integer. So how can I convert it into integers? By using an int function. So Python has a built-in int function. It's a type converting function, and that will convert whatever string you are entering into the through the keyboard by the input function into integer, right? So now the user is entering a number as input, and that number is actually converted into integer, and the result is stored back into integer. Now if you are printing the type of this num, you can see that it is actually the integer. Now let us give the input 10, and if you see, now its type is integer, right? That means this, it was accepted as a string, and it was type converted to integer by calling this int function, and the result is stored back into num. So the num is now having an integer value, not a string value. So that's why its type is now integer. And one more thing, what I expected from this statement is to double the value. That means to multiply the given value by 2 and store the result back into that variable num. So I expected 20. Now it is giving the proper result 20 because my input is a number, that means integer. In Python we have one more function, that is float. So float is also a type converting function that will convert whatever value entered by the user from string into float, right? Now let us run the code again, and if you check, it is asking for the input first, and let me give for example 20.4. This is the input I am providing. It's a decimal number or it is a real float number. So it is accepted as 20.4 as a string. Now what will happen, it will be converted into float first. So now it will become 20.4, and the num will have now 20.4. Now it is getting multiplied by 2, and the result is stored into num again. Now if you print the type of num, it will be of type float, and you will give the exact result what you expect. Right, let us run the code again, or let us give the enter. Right, now if you see, its the data type of num is actually float now, and its value is 40.8 after the multiplication. Now these are the two important functions provided by Python to convert strings into integer or float. We have two types of type conversions available in Python. One is explicit type conversion, another one is implicit type conversion. So one is explicit type conversion, another one is implicit type conversion. So what is explicit type conversion? The type conversion is happening through the user intervention. That means it's manually carried out in the program. In that case, it's called as explicit type conversion. So here, this is the example of explicit type conversion. That means here we are forcefully or manually converting the string entered by the user as input into integer or float. So this is called explicit type conversion, right? So what is the problem? Okay, one important problem is there with explicit type conversion, right? What is that is, there is a possibility of loss of data in the explicit type conversion. For example, let me have a variable a, and it is having a value or a string value that is 20.2. It's having a string value 20.2. Now I want to convert this into integer. Actually it's a float number. It's a float value, so 20.2, it has a decimal point, and after decimal point we have a digit, that is 2. So it's a float number, but I try to convert it into integer. So a equal to int of a, right? So now if you print the type of, this a, right, now it would be actually integer, right? So let us run the code, and if you check the type of this code, you see invalid literal for integer. Yes, right. So integer cannot convert Okay, integer cannot convert a string into an integer. So now I am providing a float value 20.2 and I am trying to convert this float value a into integer, right? Float value a into integer, right? And now if you print the type of this variable a, so you could see that its type is actually integer, right? That is okay. But now what I do is, let me print the value of a after conversion. I am printing the value of a after conversion. Initially it's a float value and its value is 20.2, and once I convert it into integer, now what's happening? Its type is integer and its value is 20. So what happened to that fractional part? It's lost, right? So when you are converting a data of one type into another type explicitly or manually through the user intervention, sometimes the loss of data is possible. Okay, sometimes the loss of data is possible. At the same time, if I do this, like a is an integer and I am converting this integer into float by passing it as an argument to float function, and if you run the code again, you can see that the integer is converted into float. In that case, there is no fractional part. One fractional part is added. That's all, right? There is no loss in that. So it's not the case always that the loss of data will be there in explicit conversion. In some cases, explicit conversion or explicit type conversion will make loss of data or have loss of data. So that is the drawback of explicit type conversion. Other than that, it is possible to convert data of any type into other type by using explicit type conversion. Let me have one more example. For example, let me have the value a equal to 10 and b equal to 20. So a equal to 10 and b equal to 20. Now what I do is I am adding these two values. Okay, I am adding these two values. So c equal to a plus b. So surely the data type of the c is actually integer, because I am trying to add two integer values. So the data type of c will be an integer. Now let me print this result in the output screen, right? So let me give a print statement. So print sum of a and b is, so sum of a and b is, then what I do is I try to club the value of the string sum of a and b is with the value of c, right? So here what I do is I am trying to club the string sum of a and b is with a numerical value c, right? And let us run the code and check the behavior of this program. And we are getting an error. What is that? Can only concatenate string, not integer, right? That means you are trying to concatenate one string and one integer or one number, right? So plus operator is designed to concatenate two strings, not one string and one integer, or not two integers, right? So when you are providing two integers, it will add. When you are providing two strings, it will concatenate. But you cannot concatenate one string and one integer. It will confuse. So what I want to do is I want to convert this c into a string, so that this will also become a string, and already there's a string sum of a and b's, both will be clubbed by this or concatenated by this plus operator. So I am making the work of this operator easy by passing this value or numerical value of c to a standard string function str. So this str is actually a built-in function in Python, and that will accept one number as input and it will convert it into a string. Now what will happen? This c, what is there in c? Actually 30 will be converted into a string, that means 30, and that will be concatenated with sum of the strings sum of a and b is, and now the result is as you expected. Right, now let us check the result. Sum of a and b is 30, right? So here the number which is available in the variable c is converted into string by using string function. So far we have discussed int, float, then str, that means string conversion functions. So we have some more functions. Char, you can convert any digit into char. For example, let me have an example. So I have a variable a and I have a value in that, that is 9, right? And I want to convert this value 9 which is stored into a, now it is an integer, into char. So what can I do is I can convert this value of a into a character and I can store the result back into a, right? Still it's a character because it's 9 is 9, right? But let me type or print the type of this variable a. So before that, let me print the type of the variable a before getting converted into character, right? So let me print the type of a before conversion, right? One time. So type of a, right? So this is before getting converted into a character, right? And again, I am printing the value of this a after getting converted into a character. Now let us run the code again. So if you see, before converting it into a character, it was an integer, right? After that, I converted it into a character, and now its type is actually a string. So there is no separate character type in Python. So even if you are converting an number into character, it will be converted into a string only, right? So this is what actually happening in explicit type conversion. So we have discussed int, float, then str or string, and chr or character functions to convert a data of one type into another type explicitly, right? That is called explicit type conversion. In other programming languages it's called as typecasting. And next one is, we have another type of conversion that is called as implicit type conversion. So that is called implicit type conversion. What is implicit type conversion? A data is getting converted from one type into another type automatically, right? Without any user's intervention, automatically it is happening, means it's called implicit type conversion, right? So for example, so let me have a variable a again, and it is having the value for example 20.2, right? Okay, 20.2. And now what I do is, right, I am storing this 20 point, or I am storing this a into b, right? So b equal to a, right? B equal to a. Now what's happening is, right, a is of type float, and when you are assigning the value of a to b, b's type is converted to float, right? Because b is not having any particular type, so now its type is actually float. So this is one example. Okay, this is one example of implicit type conversion, right? So implicit type conversion is very simple, and it is naturally happening in the programs when you are executing the programs, right? And that is what the type conversion is. Now in this video we have discussed how the type conversion is done in Python. So I hope that you understood what is type conversion and how type conversion is happening in Python, and some of the built-in functions to carry out type conversion. Happy programming. Thank you.